So we first made the show in 2016. Phil and I had 2 weeks off, which just meant we were unemployed. So I said to Phil, I've booked us a tour, a 2-week tour around the Highlands. Do you want to do Orpheus, or do you want to do the Odyssey? And Phil said, I don't know what either of them are, but Orpheus sounds good. So that's why we're here, team. That astonishing, heart-wrenching moment has landed us here. That was in 2016. We first did the show in the back garden of a cheese shop, a Dutch cheese shop in Cromarty, on the northeast coast of the Highlands of Scotland. Yeah, doesn't it?
It's too crazy to be made up.
It's where everyone opens their shows now. It's become a thing. Like, I can't think of any good shows. And since then we've done it in gardens, pubs, front rooms, halls, very occasionally in a theatre if we're allowed in.
In a couple of weeks we're doing it on a boat.
Yes, we are doing it on a boat, which is great. We're trying to book it in a cave in New Zealand, which is entirely inhabited by glowworms. Where you'll get into it by going through a cave system on a boat of glowworms. How cool is that? So that's what you could have won. And you're just in South London in an old carpet warehouse.
Don't turn the worms against us.
Did you all get the memo about brushing up on your ancient Greek? Yes. It is in ancient Greek. So it's going to be pretty impenetrable if you didn't get that memo. Who knows their ancient Greek? No, the kind of the stuff. The stories. Yeah, the stories. Okay, yeah, great. This is Jess. Jess starts most sentences with "as a classicist," so Jess will know her ancient Greek. She studied classics, so I could do it in ancient Greek. Well, Jess could do it in ancient Greek. Okay, so quite a lot of people know ancient Greek. That's good. It might mean you're horribly disappointed with this version, but it's good for your brain power that you do. Who knows their Bruce Springsteen? Okay, Beth, yeah, okay, quite strong. Who knows their ancient Greek and their Bruce Springsteen? Okay, you're the Venn diagram. You're who we're pushing at.
As always, 1%.
So yeah, we first wrote this 2 and a bit years ago, and I've been until that point I've been trying to find a good reason to use this notebook. Now this notebook was bought by my very good friend Chai-san for me on my wedding day. I have one that says AFW. My wife has one that says VFW. So we have matching leather-bound wedding notebooks, which is lovely. And I treasure notebooks quite a lot. And I've been thinking of a good reason to use my... Well, I've got these ones left, but what I used it for was to write this poem in. I thought I'll be a real troubadour. I'll write it all out by hand. We'll go around the Highlands. It'll be beautiful. And I quickly realised that I can't read my own handwriting. So I had to type it all out and stick it back in over the top, like a kid that's done their homework wrong. Which someone told me on the first day we did this show, that was a lovely palimpsest. Now, I've got a degree in English literature. No idea what a palimpsest is. Jess? Anyone know?
Yeah, it's a book of memories, ideas, things that you can put in to remind you things that are about the whole story, pictures, that's how I see it.
Nailed it.
Brilliant.
Nailed it. Turns out it
why
is.
don't they just say that? That's a nice book of memories and things and pictures and stuff that you can remember it by.
One of the words in the poem is the word cash, the abbreviation of the word casual, as in like smart cash. Difficult to write down.
Not when you're Polish.
Okay, how are the Polish spelling it?
Very easy. It's K-A-N-Z with a dot on it.
Great. That's the best answer we've had yet, because that's probably actually accurate. Does it mean the same in Polish?
No.
Okay.
What does it mean in Polish?
Nothing.
Oh.
It's close to a name where you really
Yeah, right.
get it
Yeah.
wrong.
Okay. Well, I went with CADZJ.
And when he sent me the lyrics to the songs I was supposed to be singing and I read that, I obviously text lol WTF.
Autocorrect. Anything else you want to get through? Or is that us?
The show?
It's actually just like an hour and a half with Alex and Phil. That's maybe not true. So, it's important to say now that Eurydice dies 6 months after they meet. And they will have had a great 6 months, the best. And then Eurydice will pass away. She'll pass on from this world. And it won't be calm, and it won't be neat, and it won't be expected. But also, it won't be the end. Because for us here, death is usually the end. But not for Eurydice. So, it is important to say now that Eurydice will die 6 months after they meet. And for Dave, that will tear him apart. He'll be inconsolable. And within moments, all the colour will drain back out of the world and he'll be stood, lonely and alone in the corridors with impassable doors, and his heart rate and blood pressure will rise and fall like a storm. And the heat behind his eyeballs will make it feel like they are fit to burst. And in those hospital corridors, he'll gasp for air and he'll gasp for her, as slowly the reporters from the local news arrive searching for tomorrow's headlines, and Dave will be stood, drowning in a world drained of colour as Eurydice slips further and further away. Eurydice. What a beautiful name.
Piece me, flower by flower, and thread by thread collect me in buckets and spades of blues and reds till I'm holding your sands of hope and waters of time. Make possible a mingling of yours with a mixing of mine. Imprint me, impress upon my skin. Print me in books to bind me in.
And there's an old man sat on a park bench, decades in the future, at the very tail end of winter. He's waiting.
Imprint me, impress upon my skin. Print me in books to bind me in.
We didn't do introductions, sorry. Rude. I'm Alex.
I am Phil.
And all of you are? Average. And come on, we can do better than that. Individual names. Don't go conglomerate audience. You're better than that. Individual names. After 3. 1, 2, 3. All. Ian. Well, yes. Ian's beaten the lot of yous.
Brilliant.
Okay, good. Shall we start?
Let's.
They're sat at the bar, bam, bam, 2 of them, all full of biceps and crew cuts and lager with cheap whiskey chasers. Friday night behaviour, beer for dinner and maybe a curry later. But for now, it's well past 5 p.m. and the working week is done. And it's too red skin from too many beer gardens sat in the too hot sun. Sides of head shaved, weekend men, lads looking to get laid. And they're all right, darling, fancy a drink? Did you just drop from heaven? Nah, I'm joking, you must hear that a lot. Now listen, just listen. As the next woman just walks away. One of the lads shakes his head and the other one walks away. They're all chiseled jaws and trendy jeans and a cold bottle of artisan beer. No fear of tomorrow or the next day or the next. Just tonight, just this drink, this club. And all right, darling, if you just dropped from heaven, now listen, just listen. Jesus, I sound like a dick. And once in a blue moon, they think before they talk, but they have to walk to allow for their balls. And small man syndrome has made them walk tall. And next to these 2 is Dave. Now, Dave is all soft edges and faraway looks. He looks like he's borrowed his dad's haircut. But he's still got his shirt on, short sleeves and a solid strong check, and one of those faces which runs straight from his chin down to his neck. And if the other 2 are carved from sessions at the gym, then Dave is built from too many takeaway pizzas and movie nights in. And the other fellas are like, yeah, lads, lads, lads! And Dave is like, yeah. Just trying to keep up with the bants. But it's a weekend ritual, this turn in the pub before they turn out onto the streets. And when Dave's got a few beers down him, he does start to swagger to a different beat. But it's Friday, and they're all done with their days at the desk. This beer, this club, these nights, and who cares what comes next?
Rolling round town like backstreet ballers. Lads on the town, so lock up your daughters. 1 down, 2, 3, Jaeger chaser. My boys and me catching the lasers. So I'm bringing good times, dance steps. Who knows what comes next? Big tunes, big rude on the pool of cash. That's gonna get my game on. Come and join the party, son.
And at the end of next week, Dave is turning 30. A dirty word that's fast approaching. Feels like a watershed that he's not quite ready for yet. But the lads aren't going to let it go. He'd be happy with a quiet night in. Glass of wine on his own. But they have got plans. They have got big, big plans. So,
rolling round town like backstreet ballers. Lads on the town, so lock up your daughters. 1 down, 2, 3, Jaeger chaser. My boys and me catching the lasers.
Now, Dave didn't grow up all lads, lads, lads and strong checked shirts. He grew up with his hands at a piano and his head in the clouds, and he'd sit in the garden to sing songs to the flowers or spend hours trying to rhyme poems about superpowers or think about what superpowers he might have. Hugs, smiles, high fives, or a little thumbs up for when the going got tough. And he'd tinkle the ivories for his mam and sing her the first ever song that he wrote.
My name is Dave. Pink is my favourite flavour of ice cream. And I'm captain of the football team.
And the difficult second album?
Yeah. I was walking the dog. I saw a slug. I decided to leave it so a bird could eat it. 'Cause that's the natural circle of life.
Heart-stopping stuff, bro. For his 10th birthday, Dave got a guitar and he learned to play Wonderwall and Big Yellow Taxi, and he tried to learn some Bruce Springsteen. And when he's 11, he plays a song at the Year 6 assembly at the end of the year before his class left for big school.
Don't look back, we'll keep looking on to the places we're going, not where we've come from. This place is cool, but we've outgrown you. It's time for us to move schools. So goodbye, cool, I'll see you soon. Goodbye, farewell, au revoir, salut, toodaloo.
And big school was a huge throng of bodies and boys and corridors and classrooms and forgetting books and getting lost and misses and sirs and older kids who just seemed to tower and tower and tower over. And if he's honest, Dave misses little school. He misses story time and rounders and the smaller desks and chairs and the bookshelves, and this place is big. Maybe I'll grow into you, thinks Dave. I mean, this place is big. And when, in music class, he offers to play one of his songs, another kid just laughs and chucks something at his head. And in break time, when he goes to look at the flowers and trees and hums a little tune for them, he gets yelled at and laughed out of town. And he's not captain of the football team. There are loads of kids better than him at football. Dave, 11. Shirt tucked in and tied and up, holding £3 dinner money for lunch. Stood. Lonely. Look.
There's too little body in too much space. Half a smile wiped off a little face. A heavy little stomach and a heavy little heart. It's hard to pack such big wishes into such a small body part.
Because the world shifts so fast, and the flowers and trees just cling to the earth, and all these things can grow and die and rebirth, but Dave just grows up, and his bones start to grow big. and he teaches his soul not to sing. And his voice starts to drop, and the doubt starts to kick in.
So goodbye, cool, I'll see you soon. Goodbye, farewell, au revoir, salut, toodaloo.
The old man on the bench, many years in the future, shifts his weight. He uncrosses and recrosses his legs to avoid pins and needles, and he sits, waiting. Since he was a kid, Dave has worn glasses. But as far as he can tell, it hasn't made the blindest bit of difference. Since some ill-defined point in his childhood, Dave has seen the world in grayscale. It started when he confused the colours of his exercise books in class, and later when his grades went down in art. At undefined and indefinite moments, colour seemed to slip from Dave's childhood, teenage and adult life. And of course, he went to the opticians, and of course they gave him glasses, but it wasn't a fuzziness or a loss of focus. It was a slow seeping of colour. A slow mix of the trees to be just brown, or for all sunrises to be flattened out, or for every iris to be grey or grey or grey. Until eventually, everything was on a monochrome sliding scale between black and white. And now, all these years later, this has become normal for Dave. He identifies cars by number plates, and road crossings by the order of the lights, and his clothes by only wearing one checked item at once, and only buying jeans that he is 99% sure are 100% black. And there's still the sun, and there's still the moon, and he can still hear the wind in the leaves, even if he can't watch the shift in seasons. And for Dave, this has become normal. He can hardly even remember what he's been missing out on.
Rolling round town like backstreet ballers. Lads on the town, so lock up your daughters. 1 down, 2, 3, Jaeger chaser. My boys and me catching the lasers.
So, 30 and single, but still up for a laugh. You can't rush these things, you can't force these things too fast. He's got a lot going for him, got a steady job, rents a decent house, he's got his gym membership and things. And it doesn't matter that when he was a kid, he dreamt of big stages. That childhood nonsense is nothing short of outrageous. But he's got these beers, and he's got these ill-fitting mates, and he can count on one hand the amount of dates he's been on in the last 5 years. But these things happen naturally. Can't force him or her to fall in your lap like they've dropped from the gods. Gotta keep trucking on, gotta work hard at your job, live for the weekend, live for the fun. Don't worry about the poetry that you dreamt of as a kid. This is the real world, Dave. This fella, these 5 pints of Carling and feeling a little bit pissed. And it's your birthday next week, mate. It's your birthday. Let's have it big, you know, let's have it big, says one of the lads with the muscles and the hair. We'll go out with the boys, make a big night of it, yeah? Yeah. Sounds great, says Dave. Yeah, we'll have a laugh. Yeah, we'll have a few beers, lad. Yeah, we'll have a laugh, says Muscles and Haircut. I know this great new karaoke bar. So, a final grey week in his 20s and the weekend rolls round, and there are texts about where they're going to meet, and Dave goes for 99% sure black jeans and a solid, strong check. And he looks at himself in the mirror and... in there, a quarter of the size. There's a little boy with colour in his eyes and words on his lips and his hands on a guitar plucking at his heartstrings. And for a second, that little lad from decades ago is about to sing. But Dave turns away, leaves the house and the little lad shut in. And he's down the street, and he crosses the road at the flashing grey man, starts to pass revellers in their fake grey tans, and the grey neon signs advertise parties on the cheap, and the grey party posters advertise the end of the week. And these grey beats hammer out on these grey streets, and Dave's grey heart hammers out a grey heartbeat. And at the bar, it's pints of lager with cheap whiskey. And he pushes out the thought of himself then and now, 2 decades later. Because it's oi, 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 and it's lads, lads, lads. And the bar is packed with grey striped shirts, grey cut jeans and shoes and skirts, and grey bar staff offer bright grey drinks. 48 hours where you don't have to think, living for the weekend. This snippet of time where the world slips away. Kick back, let your grey hair down, and it's Dave's 30th birthday. Happy birthday, mate. Let's hit this town. Okay, says Dave. Okay. Let's paint the town grey.
Oh, baby, give me one more chance. Won't you please let me back in your heart? Oh, darling, I was blind to let you go. But now since I see you in his arms, I want you back.
And after a battering of bars and a plethora of pubs, they're drunk. Group hugs. Happy birthday, Dave, and I love you, son. And one of them calls a cab off Dave's phone. Now, the karaoke bar is just over the river. Walkable at one point in the evening. But, bling! Your driver, Sharon, is arriving now. So they pile into the grey car and Sharon has the radio on and they all sing along too.
Sweet home Alabama.
As a cab ploughs through the streets, across a bridge and pulls up outside an old Chinese. And they pay Sharon and the 3 bouncers on the door ask for ID. And they say, are you having a laugh, fellas? He's just turned 30. So they smile and say for a song they'll let them inside. So a quick round of Sweet Home Alabama mixed with Happy Birthday will just have to suffice.
Sweet home Alabama, where the skies are so blue. Sweet home Alabama, happy birthday to you.
Nailed it. Inside, someone is wailing Whitney Houston like it is their last night on Earth. And the grey TV screens display the lyrics for what it's worth because they just make up the song. And immediately, the lads are in full swing, throwing their football stand voices into the full-throated Dave.
How will I know if he really loves me? I'll say a prayer with every heartbeat and I'll fall in love whenever we meet. I'm asking you what you know about these things. How will I know if he's thinking of me? I tried to phone but I'm too shy and I can't speak. Falling in love is so bittersweet. This love is strong, why do I feel weak?
And it's one of those bars where you have to fill in a little slip of paper and pass it to the DJ and they might call you up to sing later, so you've got to stick around. And the lads are flicking through the books to see what's on the cards and Dave goes up to get the next grey round of drinks from the bar and there's drinks and there's songs and it is a good laugh. And the intro to a Bruce Springsteen song starts. And the DJ calls up Dave's name, says it's a special night, says it's a big birthday, and the lads are wetting themselves at this practical joke. And Dave is pushed on stage, mic in hand, and his voice chokes.
I get up in the evening and I ain't got nothing to say. Come home in the morning I go to bed feeling the same way. I ain't nothing but tired. I'm just tired and bored with myself. Hey baby, I could use just
And the power goes
a
out.
little help.
And the music stops. And the lights go out. But to Dave, it's just a different grey on different grey. And the crowd in the bar bark and shout their annoyance, but Dave just carries on singing anyway.
Can't start a fire. Can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
And who said they needed Bruce Springsteen, sorry? Yeah, so you'll see here I've written, we all sing as much of Bruce Springsteen as we can.
Right. Well, let's all do the chorus. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Can't start a fire. Nice. Can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Yeah! Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
And Dave is stood on stage singing, and the crowd are filling the bar, singing, all in the darkness, and everyone is in the dark, not just Dave. The whole of the karaoke bar is in grayscale, and the whole of the karaoke bar is singing, dancing in the dark, whilst singing and whilst dancing in the dark. And a woman walks in, at the back of the bar, glowing in the most glorious yellow and blue. And Dave drops the mic, but the crowd hardly notice. And he pushes his way through the throng to this colour, to something which has become so foreign. I'm sorry, it's just that I can't usually see, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm Eurydice, she says.
I wanna change my clothes, my hair, my face. I just ain't getting nowhere. But I'm just living in a dump like this. There's something happening somewhere. Baby, I just know that there is. Can't start a fire. Can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
And Dave stands and looks at this bright and colourful woman, stood in a sea of grey and dark. And his heart half stops. And his heart half starts.
You're singing in purple. You're standing in red air. Your smile shines out yellows and gold thread in your hair. Your eyes are flashes of amber, bronze and blue. Your colour a rainbow, every gentle hue. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. 'Cause your edges are gilded like the finest looking stars. Your touch is silver. I'm packing my bags and leaving Mars. Your shadows are shimmers of cyan and gold. Well, I'm drunk on colour and I'm drunk on soul. I'm drunk on soul. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white.
And the days and weeks that followed were quite some of the most remarkable and precious days and weeks in the whole history of all time. They were full of sunshine and butterflies and buttercups and all the things that a flash flood romance is built from the bricks of butterscotch kisses and molten sugar mortar. Because in those honeymoon magic moments of first kisses and touches and times when the world is discovered anew in the arms of another, then the air tastes sweeter and the sun shines more golden and the bird song becomes Mozart and the ebb and flow of the traffic sounds like the ebb and flow of the sea. And actually, despite all the cheesy romance, Dave and Eurydice had hit a chord which felt special, like really special. Because Eurydice was made from colour. That first morning, after dancing in the dark, when they woke up tumbled and tied up in each other's arms, Dave picked out a golden thread in the duvet. Caught by the purple light which was pushing its way through the orange blinds. And the coffee tasted like deep reds, and the eggs and bacon were all lush greens and pinks and yellows. The water from the shower was bright blue, and the songs on the radio radiated in pops of lilac and pink. Every time he looked at Eurydice, she was shining in yellow and blue, like a dream he never actually dreamt might come true. And out the window, in the streets and the cars, that world still looked grey, but for Dave and Eurydice, those grey days were so far away, pushed well beyond love-tangled arm's length. Their days were full of rainbow brunches and pastel dinners with amber wines. And when Dave looked, everywhere Eurydice touched, the world was smiling. And he and she were smiling back. It was the epitome of a whirlwind romance, but one which felt like it might last, because by the time a month had passed, it felt like a year. Dave had left his old flat. They found an apartment at the top of a building, stories up, where they could climb onto the roof and look at the sky, drawing pictures in the twinkle of the stars like Christmas lights, or pick faces from the clouds. And if they looked down, it was like they were looking at a toy town, like they were gods of their own colourful kingdom.
I'm floored by your power. Feel it running through your veins. You should be meted by the hour. Here I go, falling in love again. Your feet are just like tree roots. I see the mountains in your face. I'll swap your wellies for rocket boots and meet me out in space. Someone take the lid off, we'll go flying. Someone pop the cork, and I'm yours. And we'll just buckle up. The roof's just sky thin. Run fast enough, we're bound to hit a course.
And she's infectious. After a while, the colour starts to spread like it's travelling. So Dave might see a tree in pinking bloom blossoming in a park, or a shop front decorated in filigree and gold, and he starts to see the check in his shirt and is immediately appalled by his wardrobe choices. He goes shopping. But the colours that Dave sees aren't the colours of the world. They're the colours of magic and falling, being lifted, and heart-soaring joy. And if you've never seen these colours before, then the world looks magnificent, all dressed up in that finery.
As no one ever told you never. Or did you never look that far? I've started mapping out forever, but I'm gonna need a bigger car. And I'll swap your two-stroke for rocket fuel. Count me down from 10, and we'll crowdsource a space school. Here I go, falling in love again.
And by 2 months, they've made that apartment their perfect home. And it's not carling and whiskey chasers, but it's dinner, and it's singing later, and it's dancing, and it's socialising, and Dave's mates are amazed by the change. Oi, 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 Dave, mate, you are looking fly. And he looks well, and he looks happy, and so does Eurydice. Eurydice, an ancient name, daughter of Apollo, god of light, and daughter of Ceres, mother of the earth and giver of life. Eurydice, soon to be wife to Dave. They are to be married under the eyes of whoever's gods are present on the day, and plans are underway, and plans are full of friends and feasting and dancing and singing, and they're to be married in a beautiful woodland just out of town, just over the river. And Dave says they can arrive by boat, and Eurydice says it's fine, we can just walk. But for Dave, this is once in a lifetime, and he wants all the joy. He's invited the moon and the sun and the day and the night and the stars, and the guest list is open. Come, bring some drinks, bring something to eat, and dance with us. And if anyone here knows of any reason why this man and this naiad should not be wed, and hardly 6 months after dancing in the dark, Dave and Eurydice are dancing, coupled in each other's arms, with so many happy people full of colour and joy dancing around them. And how the world can change, how the world can change, how the world can change.
Someone take the lid off, and we'll go flying. Someone pop the cork, and I'm yours. We'll just buckle up. The roof's just sky thin. Run fast enough, we're bound to hit a course. Run fast enough, we're bound to hit a course. Run fast enough, we're bound to hit a course.
decked in fairy lights and festoon, and music rings through the glowing leaves, and she is wearing yellow and he is wearing blue, and the way that they are dancing and singing, it feels like they might just dance and sing the whole night through, and it feels like the woods are dancing with them. It feels like the trees and the stones are singing with them, like the very earth is holding them and wishing them well. And Dave has never been happier, and Dave has never felt such love, and Dave feels like he can never give this woman enough. Eurydice, I love you so much, and she smiles 1,000 smiles which break into 1,000 more until rainbows are tripping across the forest floor, and his heart soars, and either of them have never wanted anything more. And a day later, Dave is stood drowning in hospital corridors, the colour drained right out of everything, his heart torn to shreds. And years in the future, an old man is straightening himself up off a park bench, knowing the time is coming. He tests out the hum of a little tune. And Eurydice is in Hades, in the underworld, in the gloom.
Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, colour me in, so I'm not just black and white.
Take a little beer break there, will we? yeah.
You don't have to.
Like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. We'll come back. Hades is a dark place, not entered by the living. Hades is the underworld, where the spirits and the souls and the ghosts reside who've passed from the bodies of the overworld. Hades, named after its king, neither entered nor exited by any living thing. It's a closely guarded place, the entrance to which is unknown from all but the gods. King Hades has two brothers, King Poseidon, god of the sea, and Zeus, god of the sky, although he rarely leaves his domain and jealously guards the souls who linger there. There are the green fields of Elysium, where the good souls may spend their afterlife in joy. The asphodel meadows, where the ordinary souls linger, and Tartarus, a dungeon of hell and torment for the wicked. There are two pools. The pool of forgetting, where many a soul will go and bathe to rid the memory of the world above, and the pool of memory, where new souls will bloat themselves, remembering what they may no longer have in the fresh lands of the living. The river Styx marks the border of the underworld and the overworld, the river where all bodies enter, brought by Charon, the ferryman, whose payment is 2 gold coins over the eyes of the deceased. And on the other side of the Styx is Cerberus, a huge and 3-headed beast. And in the centre of it all is King Hades, weighing souls to be judged and kept in the gloomy domain. And in the corridor of the hospital is Dave, his eyes hot, his cheeks wet, his heart torn to shreds, for, as was told merely hours after they married, his Eurydice is dead. And he knows that she's gone before the doctors come to tell him, because the colour has dropped out the sun. The weave of the carpets is back to black and grey. The picture out the window is all but buff and done, and the last echoes of rainbows have all but run away. And where just now there was glitter, there is only dust and ash and fleck. And a gold shade shifts bitter, and his colour wheel stands wrecked. And the yellows and the blues grow to brown and mud and dirt, and the purple lilac hues get swallowed up in this new hurt, and the clouds are just a dust bowl, like the sky is in need of a clean as the colour leaves his soul. No orange, no magenta, no green. And the waves of silence grow around him until his ears are fit to burst, and he'd be happy if they drown him because these streets don't feel like his streets anymore. These skies are not his skies. Because these places, they just don't fit anymore. These eyes can't be his eyes because his eyes had learnt language. And his mouth had learnt song, and his muscles had learnt freedom, and his soul had grown strong, and his blood had learnt power, and his guts had learnt to love, and his stomach had learnt laughter, and his feet had learnt dancing, and his ears had learnt music, and his lips had learnt kisses, and his arms had learnt how to hold another and how to be held, and his knees had learnt the shape of another person's knees, and his time had learnt to account for someone else's time, and how to allow time, and how to let a moment sit. And his speech had learnt to listen. And he had learned to give and to love and 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 to laugh and to sleep and to wake and to smile and to cry and to run and to lead and to follow and to slow down and to speed up and to pause and to think and to challenge and to be challenged. And he had learned to give and 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 to give until it felt like this whole place was made up because of them and for them. And this place can't now be his place, this colourless place, this grey place, this silent place, this place.
I'm hanging on by my fingertips. I tread every gap in the pavement. Someone touch these lonely lips. Forgetting to move, forgetting to count where the days went. I'm clinging on by sellotape. I'm scared of the speed of cars. Shape me someone so I might wait. Forgetting to talk, keep forgetting where you are.
And the house is a mess, you know? There's days of washing up in the sink and the smoke alarm is beeping because the battery needs changing, but the curtains are still closed, still halfway through the afternoon. And if he charged his phone, he would find voicemails and messages and missed calls, but he's been in the same clothes for days. He spends his time on the roof, just looking, just remembering to breathe in again and out again. And in again, and out again, and in again, and...
But I'm drunk on colour, I'm drunk on soul, I'm drunk on soul. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white.
And here I've written, we teach the audience some of the song in harmony, so we can all sing a super sad song together.
Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Let's go all together. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Nice. Colour me in, say it again. So I'm not just black and white. Throw it to harmony if you want. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white. Colour me in, so I'm not just black and white.
The old man checks his watch. decades in the future. He can feel a shift in the air. He can feel something. And he's humming. And Dave sits on the roof, singing to the sky and pouring it all out. He's just pouring it all out at a grey and cold and lonely world. And there's a fella on the street looking up at Dave. And to Dave, it's impossible. The world is still even turning. So let the fella look for all Dave cares. Let this fella look at this picture of grief and abandon and carry on walking. But the fella doesn't carry on walking. He looks at Dave, gives him a little wave with wings on the heels of his high-top trainers, and the fella waits. He waits for Dave. Walk with me, he says. So they walk. And Dave practices putting one foot in front of the other, practices staying steady on a dizzyingly spinning earth. The gods heard you singing, says the fella. They've asked me to come get you. You made the gods weep. And Dave walks shoulder to shoulder with this fella through the streets and down alleys and into a cafe, where there's a woman pulling everyone's eye. A chap at the back who's already hit the wine, and a kid in the corner who is forever swiping right. And Dave sits down at a table with a big guy in a creased shirt and a beard. And I mean, a beard. There are tears rolling down his cheeks and into his whiskers. His eyes are red from weeping. There's a crumpled tissue in his hand. The two of you were perfect, says the big guy. We've listened to you grieving. All of us. And every other eye in the cafe stops and turns to look at him. Every fork hovers. Every coffee cup sits suspended between table and lip. And the gods look at Dave, their hearts full of grief. And one by one, the gods stand. And one by one, they turn to Dave. And one by one, they start a melody. Not of words, but a song, one by one. The gods hum.
He God's with us.
Go get her, says the big guy. Go get her back from Hades. The river Styx is more like an ocean. Here, at the side of the living, it's impossible to see the shores of the dead. And Dave stands in darkness and gloom with the river lapping at his feet. He's waiting for the ferryman, for Charon, the gods had said. They bundled him through the streets and back alleys of the city until, and he couldn't tell when, he'd left the overworld. Until beyond anything that any other living thing had ever done, he was here, about to cross the border. And the gods had left him, their hearts aching for him. One of them had placed 2 gold coins in his hand for the ferryman, for Charon. And here, Dave waited. And from the gloom came a white light fighting its way through the dark as slowly, a boat appeared being punted by an old and crooked man, a lamp hanging by a thread. Hermes has brought me for passage to the underworld, and he held out 2 pieces of gold, and time seemed to stop, and the ocean between him and Eurydice seemed to grow endless. Eventually, Charon slowly nodded his head, and Dave stepped aboard. The journey across the Styx is long. The river winds itself 7 times around the underworld, and Charon is in no rush, a fearsome and solitary figure ferrying lost souls to final homes. And in the grey, Dave hears the whispers of the dead, the ache of the wrench from the overworld, the burden of the ferryman to ceaselessly ferry men, women, and children into Hades. For no living soul shall enter the underworld, and no dead soul shall leave, but the gods had given him passage. On the far bank, Dave saw the little boat slip back into the dark, the waters lapping at his feet, the air cold, the air thick, the air full of death.
Floored by your power, feel it running through your veins. You should be meted by the hour. Here I go, falling.
From the dark comes a hump and a garump. And in front of a passage is this huge form, a beast, a lumbering, muscle-bound giant of a hound with 3 heads. Cerberus, guardian of the gates of hell, with all 6 eyes trained on Dave and hundreds of teeth barred and a less than welcoming grin. I mean, let's step back here. Dave is a bloke with check shirts and carling and cheap whiskey. And all right, darling, if you just dropped from heaven, now listen, Jesus, look, just listen, look. Look. I mean, what's going on here, he thinks. I'm fine, actually. You know, these things come and go, and maybe she isn't worth all this, but he knows that she is. And he looks at the river, and he knows that he can't get back, so he turns to the beast. He creeps left, the beast follows. He creeps right, and the beast follows and bares its teeth, and Dave hums to try and calm his heartbeat. And his hum disturbs the gloom, and the beast blinks. So Dave hums again, and the darkness shifts, and the beast blinks. 1 head, 2 head, 3, blink, sniff like the sound was foreign. So Dave hums again, and the heads listen. So he tries again, a little louder. He tries again, a little stronger.
Love, you know I'm running. Same cast but different kind. Don't you know that I'm collecting all these treasures you leave behind?
And blink by blink, each of the 6 eyes stays closed longer, and each of the 3 heads begins to nod as the beast starts to wilt, lulled by the sound, lulled and softened by such sweet music that blink by blink, the beast falls to sleep. And Dave, the Dave who used to be sat at the bar, slips past the guardian of the gates and descends into hell. Eurydice is daughter of Apollo, and a tree nymph, wound so deeply into the trees and the lands and the woods, and she is strong and fierce and worlds away from cheap beer and chat-up lines. But Dave's soul had hit her like an arrow through the heart. She saw him. She saw into him. She saw the boy at the piano and the kids singing in the playground, and she saw a man who had learnt not to, who had learned to look at the world through grey eyes, but the sparkle was still there, just buried, deep. And now she sits with Hades, Lord of the underworld, God of hell. And if she's honest, he does get a bad rep. No, he's a decent guy. He's just very strict on his admin. Now, his souls are his souls, and he doesn't visit his brothers very much, and he does guard his kingdom a little jealously. He's okay. He's got his thing. A gold thread catches Dave's eye. Colour. And he follows deeper and deeper until the darkness is thick and the thread is a lifeline in the world of the dead. It's stifling. And either she has dreamt him up, or the overworld has opened, but there is a living man walking towards her with a familiar sparkle in his eye. And Dave sees her, bathed in yellow and blue at the end of time and beyond his furthest reaches. But he's here, and she's there, and so is Hades. Eurydice, he says, I've come to find you, to bring you back. I miss you. And he holds out his hand, and he hopes that she'll take it.
I get up in the evening and I ain't got nothing to say. Come home in the morning, I go to bed feeling the same way. I ain't nothing but tired. I'm just tired, bored with myself. Hey baby, I could use just a little help. Can't start a fire, can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire, even if we're just dancing in the dark.
And around them is a little pool of colour, colours long forgotten by the dead, colours which the underworld hasn't seen for age upon age upon age. And Eurydice and Dave dance, smiling and weeping at the feet of Hades, while Dave hums and Eurydice hums, and the souls gather and watch and weep and hum along. And to find such beauty in such darkness is a small moment of magic, even for the gods. And Dave's heart pieces itself back together, shred by shred, knitted close with golden thread. And it's important to say now that dying doesn't mean dead, because there's the sky, the ocean, the earth, and this place, the kingdom of the underworld, with rivers and fields and endless souls. The old man smells a shift in the air. Spring is coming to lift the darkness, the greyness from the world. And he's got his best suit on, because he has got a date.
Pull yourself closer, let the weather draw you in. Let me travel continents across the lines of your skin. Wrap me up in you, in armor and gold. We'll weather the years, we'll grow up and we'll grow old. 'Cause there's colour in my lungs that you'd never even believe. There's sound in this breath that I've just learned to breathe. There's orchestras and choirs from the angels and the earth. I'm like a newborn tripping rainbows, running into rebirth. Hold another moment, touch a palm to a cheek, turn a second to a minute, in retrospect made sweet. We'll travel continents, turn an iris to an oak. We'll weather the years, we'll grow up and we'll grow old. 'Cause there's colour in my lungs that you'd never even believe. The sound in this breath that I've just learned to breathe. There's orchestras and choirs from the angels and the earth. I'm like a newborn tripping rainbows, running into rebirth. Well, I'm just standing here, holding the world.
There are two pools. The pool of forgetting, where many a soul will go and bathe to rid the memory of the world above, and the pool of memory, where new souls will bloat themselves, remembering what they may no longer have in the fresh lands of the living. Hades stands, and the dance stops. He takes Eurydice by the hand. The souls look on with tears running down their beards like winter's drops, watching a colour glow, watching the impossible grow possible. Because and silence falls. The eyes of the dead are watching. Hades looks at Dave, a man from the overworld, stood in front of his throne in old jeans and a grubby shirt. And he looks at the eyes of Eurydice, because the living don't enter the underworld and the dead don't leave. But when Charon rode Eurydice over the Styx, he refused payment. There was no joy in bringing this woman, this naiad, to this world. Her place was above ground, ripped from the world all too soon, hours after she'd married a man made of music and magic. And Dave had shaken these foundations without even knowing these foundations existed to shake. The boy stood inside, who spoke to the flowers and sang to the trees, sat with his fingers on the keys of his mam's old ivory piano in the front room, stood in the kingdom of Hades, his soul near jumping from his body to stay with Eurydice. No, says Hades. You have many years to live. Go. Live them. And Dave stood. Eurydice stood. Hades stood, the spirits and the gods in the calf stood, and every world was holding its breath.
There's colour in my lungs that you'd never even believe. And there's sound in this breath that I've just learned to breathe. There's orchestras and choirs from the angels and the earth. Well, I'm like a newborn tripping rainbows, running into rebirth.
Eurydice knows the rules, but Hades is no devil. She tells Dave to go and that she'll follow. That's the deal. That if Dave leaves and walks out the underworld, then Eurydice will follow. But if at any point he doubts and turns to check, then she'll be gone forever. So he drinks in her yellow and her blue, and he turns and he walks. And the gods in the calf cross their fingers. And he passes the souls, and he passes the sleeping beast, and still he doesn't turn, and still he doesn't look back. And Charon welcomes him aboard the boat, the first return fare that he has ever ferried, and still he doesn't turn, and still he doesn't look back. And they reach the far bank, and still he doesn't turn, and still he doesn't look back. He walks those impossible passageways, hoping she is behind, and she is. In her yellow and her blue, she follows Dave, silent and willing him on, and still he doesn't turn, and still he doesn't look back. Until he does turn. And he does look back. Right on the cusp of worlds. He turns back to smile at her, but a footstep too soon. And he sees her. And Dave stands and looks at this bright and colourful woman, stood in a sea of grey and dark, and his heart half stops. And his heart half starts. I'll find you, she says. I'll find you, she says, as the gateway closes and she drifts back into the gloom. Dave, 30, shirt untucked, laces undone, stood at the gates of the kingdom of Hades. Stood, lonely. Look.
There's too little body in too much space. Half a smile wiped off a little face. A heavy little stomach and a heavy little heart. It's hard to pack such big wishes into such a small body part. So goodbye, cool, I'll see you soon. Goodbye, farewell, au revoir, salute, toodaloo.
Oi, 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 Dave, mate, come on, bud, we haven't seen you in ages. We've got some beers and we thought we'd get a pizza or a curry or, just an easy night in. Oh, there's a great new bar we could go to. Oh, all right, darling, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? And yeah, thinks Dave, it probably did. He answers the grey door, lets the grey lads in, lets them call for pizza and eats whatever the grey delivery guy brings in. Let them pop him a grey beer and put the grey TV on, and the grey music from the grey stereo plays grey upon grey song. And it is hard to explain to your mates that you've just tried to bargain your wife out of hell. It's winter, inside and out. The next morning, he's woken by the doorbell. There's a tree sapling on the doorstep. It's just a twig. It's not in flower yet. But 10-year-old Dave knows that it's an oak. So he brings it inside, turns off the lights, and and dances a little to himself. More energy than he has expelled in months. So, there's an old man stood in the park. He's there, same time, same place, year by year. He's standing in front of a tree. The park around him is grey. The grass is grey. The people playing are grey, but he can feel the colour coming. The first things to change are the leaves. They start to wrestle their way to a green. The trunk to a deep brown. The roots start to curl around soft green grass, and the sky between the leaves starts to push its way to a rich brass. The sun shivers in gold, and the old years slope off the man's shoulders. And he stands patiently as the colour starts to come, until the flowers turn to pink and the buds turn to purple, and he hums a little tune, and the people walking by see an old man smiling at a tree. But for Dave, he's waiting for Eurydice. On the first day of spring, year by year, she brings her colour to him, and he waits to fill his lungs with rainbows. And for half the year, he basks in her yellow and her blue until the world turns and she goes back below. And then he hums and he dances and the colour drains away. And then, so, he waits until the next year, when that oak tree is a whole year older. Dave stood smiling at an oak tree. Orpheus and his naiad wife, Eurydice.
Piece me, flower by flower, and thread by thread, collect me in buckets and spades of blues and reds, till I'm holding your sands of hope and waters of time. Make possible a mingling of yours with the mixing of mine. Imprint me, impress upon my skin. Print me in books to bind me in. Imprint me, impress upon my skin. Print me in books to bind me in.
Secret choir. The bar will stay open. We'll have more drinks in there.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you to everyone. This has been sometimes it's just me and Alex wandering around doing this in people's cheese shops. But this has been such a lovely one to share with other people performing it and watching it, and sometimes we do it to no one as well, so it's nice to have people here to watch it. So thanks all for being involved and coming. What?
Love a drink. Thank you to Tom and Humphrey, Anna and Bella and Michael.
We'll be in the bar, so will you. See you there in a minute.